Today we are going to install the new DRT Motorsports XP1000 rear bumper. This bumper fits the 2024 Plus Polaris RZR XP1000 2 and 4 door models. Install time is around 45 to 60 minutes. Can be installed by yourself with a difficulty level of beginner. You will need this list of tools to complete the installation. So, gather the tools, and let's install. Let's start by going over the assembly of the rear bumper. We will talk through this assembly, as this bumper is painted and already assembled. First, you will need to install these screens. The outer screens only fit one way, with 8 screws each, and the center screen takes 3 on each side, and 2 along the top. All 3 screens install using a 3mm Allen wrench, and a 10mm socket on the backing nut. Next, flip the bumper over. You can see all the hardware, and how it all fits. Now, let's talk about the wings. There's only one way they can fit. They can't be installed any other way, and there are only 2 bolts per side. When assembling the wings together, make sure it's flush here, and at all your joints. Once the joints feel good, then tighten them up, using a 16mm wrench on the bolt, and a 17mm on the backing nut. Now, your bumper is ready to install. Before we start with the bumper installation, we need to remove some factory bodywork. Remove these 2 T40 Torx bolts, so the bodywork can be moved around. Let's make the first 2 cuts, from the center hand grip area, where there is already a hole. Cut downward following the body line, as you see here. Next, let's cut along this body line, as shown here, meeting up with the first cuts. Now, cut the other side, along the same body line, as shown, until you are out the other side. The lower plastic bodywork should now be separated, and you can just remove and discard it, as it is no longer needed. Next, using a fine file, fine grit sandpaper on a block, or a sander with fine grit paper, run along the edge you just cut, cleaning up the edge, so it looks almost as good as it came from the factory. This part can be challenging, but remember to take your time while doing this, and also the DRT bumper hides some of this cut work. Finally, reinstall the 2 outside T40 Torx bolts to secure the bodywork back in place, and the modification is done. Next, let's install the lower bumper bracket mounts. There is a left and a right bracket. On the driver's side, this point always points to the outside of the car, as you can see here. Slide it in like this, behind the radius bars. You line up the bottom hole with the factory hole, as you see here. You will need to open up one of the small upper holes. The bracket will show you which one. It will be the lower hole. Take either a 1/2-inch drill bit or a step drill and drill out the lower hole. Now, repeat the same thing on the other side. Once you have the holes drilled out to the proper size, grab the bolts provided, and slide in the upper bolt, as you see here. This will hold the bracket while you thread on the backing nuts. Now, go back and snug up your bolts, using a 16mm on the bolt, and a 17mm on the backing nut. You don't want the brackets tight quite yet. Once you feel it tighten, back it off a turn. You want them slightly loose, so you can move the bracket around, as shown here. You want the brackets to be just a little bit loose, for later adjustment. Next, let's install the upper bumper bracket mounts. There's only one way for this bracket to go as well. It lines up with this wing part on the outside of the vehicle. It will not work on the other side. Now, the bolt installs through the front side. The back side gets the washer and backing nut. Just like the bottom brackets, tighten them using the same tools, and back them off, one turn so it's slightly loose. Then, repeat on the other side of the vehicle. Next, grab the bumper, and set the bottom of the bumper on top of the bottom brackets. Then, as you tilt the bumper in place, it will self-align itself with the vehicle. Now, with the bumper in place over the factory plastic, take a Sharpie and mark the outer hole of the bumper wing onto the bodywork, as you see here. Next, once you have a mark, take the bumper off, and set it aside. Now with a step drill, drill 2 small 1/4 inch holes. One on each side of the vehicle. Next, you take your bumper, and set it back on the bottom bracket. Then, line it up with the 2 top holes in the bodywork, and hand thread the bolt into the hole. Now, once the bolts are in place, reach around the back side, and thread on the nut and washer. Next, take your 2 factory T40 Torx bolts, and install one on each side, again hand tight, as you see here. Now, move to the bottom of the bumper, and install the supplied 4 6mm bolts, to hook the bumper to the brackets. Next, these bolts you can go ahead and tighten down. When you tighten down the bumper onto the brackets, it will set the brackets in place, where they need to go. Now, move back up, and tighten down the two T40 Torx bolts. Then, using a 4mm Allen wrench, and a 10mm wrench on the back side, tighten down the two upper wing bolts. Next, go back to the bottom brackets, and tighten all 4 bolts. Now, move to the wing brackets and take your M8 Allen bolt, and install it through the bracket in the wing. Then, tighten each side down with a 5mm Allen wrench. Next, tighten up wing bracket mount bolts to the chassis, using a 16mm on the bolt, and 17mm on the backing nut. That's it. You are done. Now just sit back, and admire the new look your DRT bumper gives your XP1000. Congrats, that completes your DRT XP1000 rear bumper install. This rear bumper is a great upgrade for riders who want to add aggressive style and better protection than the OEM plastics provide. This bumper was designed to complement the new XP1000 factory body lines and integrate perfectly into the design and flow of the factory bodywork. The DRT RZR XP1000 rear bumper adds strength and real protection to the rear end of your Polaris XP1000. Easy installation and removable / paintable mesh inserts make this upgrade a must for your RZR XP1000. Until we meet on your next DRT install, be safe out there. If you have any questions during your installation, don't hesitate to contact us via phone or email. We are here to help.